Hello, this is Frances welcoming you to the 1925th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline the 10th of October 2013. The readers this week are Audrey, Elizabeth, Malcolm and myself, Frances, with Dave on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette, Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Breur, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include Councillors United on Chase Farm legal challenge, Libraries updated computer systems riddled with faults, Schools plans battle, Cops say kidnap bid was a one-off, and Chicken Shed's awfully big adventure. First of all, the special news items this week is about the focus meeting for this year, which is on Thursday the 17th of October from 10:30 until 3 p.m. Enfield Vision is a small charity working to promote better understanding of visual impairment within the London Borough of Enfield, and they have organised a focus day for visually impaired people to provide them with a chance to access information on equipment, gadgets and services which are available in the London Borough of Enfield. The focus day will be held at the Disability Resource Centre in Park Avenue, Bushhill Park, as I said, between 10:30 and 3. The day will be opened by Diane de Jersey, their chair, and also certainly on our committee. She's our vice chair, I think, isn't she? And the Mayor of London Borough of Enfield, Councillor Chowdhury Anwar. The organisations who will be attending will be Enfield Vision, Enfield Association for the Blind, Enfield Talking Newspaper, Enfield Social Services, Action for Blind People's Mobile Bus, Guide Dogs for the Blind Association and Calibre Audio Library, with specialist equipment exhibitors, Cobalt Systems Limited, Sight and Sound Technology, Dolphin Systems, Enhanced Vision, Optilec Tiemann Group, Professional Vision Services, Vision Aid and Computer Room Suit. So it's open to anyone with a visual impairment, their relatives, friends and carers. They will provide refreshments and a light buffet, so they do ask if you're going to be going, if you wouldn't mind letting them know, either by telephoning the Enfield Vision office on 0208 351 7259 or email them on Enfield Vision, all one word, all lowercase, at blueyonder.co.uk. And they say if you could do that by the 30th, oh, you can't do it by the 13th of October, but just do it as soon as you can. They say last year it was a very successful event, attended by over 130 visually impaired people, carers, relatives and friends, and they hope that you will be able to attend this time. And they look forward to meeting you on the day. So it starts at 10, registration, tea and coffee 10:30, and then it'll carry on until 3. And then, unfortunately, the other bit of news is some very sad news, which Audrey will read.
This is Audrey, and I'm sorry to announce the recent death of our much-loved secretary, Jeanette Goodall. Jeanette had just recently had her 50th birthday and was extremely brave and tried to fight the cancer. But she died peacefully in the North London Hospice on Thursday, the 3rd of October. Jeanette had been a member for many years after being made redundant by Enfield Council. She was determined to find employment again. To this end, she got involved in Enfield Vision, first as a trustee and then taking over as secretary about 2 years ago. This was not her only involvement, because she also became minuting secretary of the Enfield Talking newspaper. She also helped arrange the bowls fixtures for Enfield Visually Impaired Bowls Club, and only this year she became a volunteer worker for Enfield Disability Action. As you can see from this, she was not only a lovely young lady, but someone who cared very much about the community in which she lived and was determined to make a difference. So we're all very, very saddened indeed that this has happened, and I pass you back to Malcolm to read the first item of news.
Enfield Council is expected to vote in favour of challenging the decision to downgrade Chase Farm Hospital. Councillors from both sides of the political divide are expected to support a motion tabled by Council Leader Doug Taylor at tonight's full Council meeting. The application for a judicial review of the decision by clinical commissioners on September the 25th, giving the go-ahead for the downgrade of the hospital in the Ridgeway Enfield, will be the second since the plans were mooted 7 years ago. Members of the Barnet, Enfield and Haringey clinical commissioning groups approved a strategy which will see maternity and inpatient paediatric services moved from Chase Farm Hospital on November the 20th and the Accident and Emergency Department shut down on December the 9th. Instead, patients will have to go to North Middlesex University Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, or Barnet Hospital in Wellhouse Lane, High Barnet. The basis for the Council's legal challenge is likely to be that the promises of 4 new primary care centres and improvements to GP services before any services could be taken away from Chase Farm have not been honoured. The assurances were among 16 recommendations made by an independent reconfiguration panel comprising clinicians, managers and independent members who reviewed the strategy in 2008 and 2011 and ratified by then Health Secretary Andrew Lansley. The Council has made it clear it would not be able to challenge the principle of the clinical strategy itself, and said that legal action would cost about £100,000, but expected to recover the costs if it was successful. Aliv Kazimoglu, chairwoman of the Council's Health and Wellbeing Scrutiny Panel, said, the promised improvements to primary care have not been made, so the Health Secretary must stop the downgrade or ensure those improvements are implemented. We have to make a balanced judgment in juggling our responsibility to residents and the cost of a judicial review, and I think this is the responsible thing to do. Michael Lavender, leader of the Conservative group, said there was cross-party agreement on the issue. We need to use this as an opportunity to ensure the government increases funding for primary care in Enfield, he said. In April 2009, a bid for a judicial review into the decision to downgrade Chase Farm was thrown out when a High Court judge ruled that the challenge was misconceived. Nick Dubois, MP for Enfield North, has said he will support the Council's challenge, while Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows has spoken against any legal action. He said that any delay in implementing the strategy would lead to uncertainty and undermine North Mid Hospital, which is being expanded.
Has strenuously denied claims that a revamp of the borough's library IT system is a costly and wasteful process. Freelance photographer Henry Jacobs is furious that library computers have been riddled with problems for 3 months. Telling the Advertiser that in his regular use of the libraries he has experienced one computer problem after another. Mr. Jacobs is frustrated that the Council has not offered any explanation as to why the system seems riddled with bugs, including out-of-order machines, slow running and printer failures. More than 3 months after the upgrade of the computers began, there is fault after fault after fault with the new systems, he said. Mr. Jacobs of Elmcroft Avenue believes that the Council's IT contract with Serco, billed as saving the authority 20% in technology costs over 5 years, is at the root of the latest raft of teething problems. The Council should be making public the performance of Serco's handling of the upgrade, he said. Council taxpayers deserve a full explanation of what has gone wrong and why the Council has been so slow in getting all the ICT equipment working correctly. However, a Council spokesman has stressed that the contract with Serco is not simply for the library systems, but also stretches across all computer provision within every department of the local authority. Insisting that the IT overhaul is benefiting library users, Bambos Sharalambos, Cabinet Minister for Culture, Leisure, Youth and Localism, told the Advertiser, over the years, the 200 public access computers in libraries have suffered considerable wear and tear as a result of heavy usage, and we have struggled to offer a reliable service to residents. Because computers were upgraded individually in the past, there have been occasions where software and other incompatibilities have occurred, resulting in crashes and other faults. To improve the computer service available to residents, we're in the process of upgrading our systems so that every machine is connected to a central server and each will have uniform programs, upgrades and hardware. We expect this to significantly improve the quality of the service available for people using these computers. We expect this process will be completed soon, but because this is a hugely complex procedure, we expect people using the computers to experience a few teething problems in the coming weeks. I'd ask residents to please bear with us while we complete this task, as the final project will be well worth the wait.
Now then, this is a very special recording session for our group, because we have to say goodbye to our team leader, Frances Sidey. She's worked for ETN for 8 years, and listeners have enjoyed her clear, friendly voice. She has also been on the committee and became secretary soon after Philip became chairman. She had a lovely tea party for all her friends at 40 Hall, and it was quite evident how much affection and regard they have for her, as all of us do. She is going home to her roots in the Isle of Man, and we wish her much happiness and a rewarding lifestyle. Every best wishes from us all, Frances, and we hope you have a wonderful time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I've really enjoyed my time on the Talking Newspapers.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, I've got another headline. Police have issued an appeal for calm after reports of an attempted abduction in the borough sparked parental panic over fears of a linked series of attacks. They say that as reported last week, on the afternoon of September the 22nd, 3 men driving a silver transit van along Agricola Place in Bushell Park tried to lure a 9-year-old girl into the back of a vehicle. The youngster managed to escape and was able to give the police a detailed description of her attempted kidnappers, who were described as of Eastern European appearance. There have been no arrests in connection to the incident, which has generated an unprecedented number of hits on the Advertiser's website. A letter from Sergeant Neil Standring, issued to parents and schools in the Bushell Park area and widely circulated by community website Love Your Doorstep, said there had been a number of stranger danger incidents as well as indecency incidents. His letter said that 4 reports were being investigated by the police, but added that they are not thought to be connected, and he was asking safer schools and safer neighbourhood officers to have a presence in the vicinity of schools. The previous week, on the website, a post about 6th formers being approached by a man outside Chase Community School in Churchbury Lane, Enfield, also informed readers that police patrols had been increased in the area. Borough Police Commander Jane Johnson has now issued a statement in which she has stressed that as far as police are aware, last month's attempted abduction was an isolated incident, despite the sudden increase in reports of suspicious behaviour around schools. Chief Superintendent Johnson said, having carefully considered the circumstances, on balance, we have agreed that it was the right thing to do to inform parents and pupils. We are committed to the safety of residents and visitors in Enfield, and Sergeant Standring's letter provides guidance to parents and pupils and general advice on safety. As a result of publicity, we have received a number of further calls connected to suspicious activity, and these are being dealt with in isolation rather than as part of a similar series. Love Your Doorstep founder Emma Rigby said, understandably there has been a misunderstanding about the connectedness of the incidents reported in Bushell Park and Chase Community School. We do get a lot of posts on Love Your Doorstep about crime, and these are not put through on our platform unless we have the facts from our local police officers.
Mary Ward might be softly spoken, but she speaks with the cool steeliness of a seasoned, battle-hardened campaigner. We want to change the world, the veteran theatre producer says simply. Mary and Joe Collins, co-founder of inclusive theatre company Chicken Shed, met 40 years ago at a parish youth club where Joe's musical talent merged with Mary's passion for drama and the artistic chemistry between them sparked an idea to set up a youth theatre company with a difference. We got talking, and we absolutely clicked within half a second, Jo recalls of the moment she met her long-standing collaborator. Over coffee in one of the slightly cramped offices of the theatre building in Chasesize Southgate, the two finish each other's sentences and chime in with each other's memories. Together, they piece together the moment from the early years of the company that set them on course for 40 years of fundraising, producing, and battling. They recall one day, early in the life of the fledgling theatre, when a film crew recorded their work with a group of mixed ability youngsters. Jo reveals that at the time they were working with a young 9-year-old boy with cerebral palsy. This boy, he'd taken part in the workshops that day, and we were pushing all the kids, him included, quite hard because we had to do scenes over and over for the film crew. And his mum said at the end of the day he had walked and talked more than he had done in his life. That kind of day highlighted what we believed, really, the power of peer pressure and the power of creativity. What makes Chicken Shed stand out amongst art charities working with mixed ability youngsters is its determination to stick to equal opportunity when casting. It means that no matter what the role, the stalwart theatre duo refused to let a preconceived idea of what a character should look like dictate who gets to play that part. We've always done that, explains Jo. We've been doing that for so long, it's totally the status quo. But, she stresses, we never put someone in a dangerous situation where someone might fail. We work with everybody over the course of a year, so we get to know those involved. We know how far to push them. During the course of the interview, both women reveal their deeply held faith in the transformative power of the arts. The arts teach self-esteem, Jo explains, before adding, the biggest boost that anybody can have is to hear applause for themselves. But despite the huge achievements of the duo in bringing the theatre company from a small shed in Barnet to a permanent building, the battle is far from won. We need to keep fundraising, admits Jo, who reveals that despite the draining work the pair have taken on in the name of inclusive theatre, they still lack a permanent, continuous source of funding, either from the Arts Council, government or business. Well, some sort of permanent endowment would be nice, she admits, smiling, ever hopeful. To celebrate the 40 years since the company began, the pair have compiled a history of the theatre in a book called Chicken Shed, An Awfully Big Adventure, set to be launched later this month. And a year of special performances will be held throughout 2014 to mark the special anniversary. And for more information about the theatre, visit www.chickenshed.org.uk.
Mumpreneurs in Edmonton are being given a helping hand to establish themselves and their businesses on social networking websites. Social media guru and coffee shop owner Karen Mercer applied for cash from Enfield Council's Residents Priority Fund to set up a free class for women who live or run a business in Edmonton. Ms. Mercer, who has been running social media evenings called Ideas Station at her store My Coffee Shop on Platform 1 of Enfield Chase Railway Station for 2 years, as well as one-to-one workshops, wanted to provide free support for women in business in the east of the borough. She told the Advertiser, I chose to run it in Millfield House, and when I went into the Aylwood room, I had a really nice feeling about it. Then I was told that it was originally the women's drawing room. It looks out on gardens and trees, and I hope that the room is a real inspiration to the women. Funding came through just as Miss Mercer and her family had decided to open a second coffee shop in Shepton Mallet, Somerset. So the businesswoman employed the assistance of Eve Tudor, who runs her own photography business, Your Little Bear. I read about her in Baby Buzz magazine, said Miss Mercer. She seemed to have that same excitement and passion and commitment to wanting to help people with social media. Mrs. Tudor, who runs a network group for parents in business, said, the Millfield is around the corner from my grandparents' house, which is where I spent most of my childhood and spend my weekends now, so I have a real affinity to the area. I jumped at the chance to help more people. Social media is about advertising. It's supposed to be fun, and you're meant to enjoy it. With the Buggy Network, I started doing workshops on my own and basically found that through my meetings, people were desperate to know how to do things better. The Ideas Station Edmonton takes place at the venue in Silver Street every other Wednesday for 2 hours from 12:30. The workshops are free, but participants need to book their slot in advance by visiting bookwen.com/mycoffeeshop. Actually, it's my coffee stop. I'm sorry.
The battle between those wanting to create more school places and others hoping to preserve green space is set to continue as many fume over plans for a new school. Groveland's Residents Association Chairman Christopher Binns says a fine balance must be struck after proposals were made for the new primary school on green space beside the Priory in the Bourne, Southgate and Groveland's Park by 2016. The new site will hold 420 pupils and staff, helping to diminish fears over a shortage of school spaces in Enfield. But at a meeting held last month, residents were sceptical about the location of the possible school, which will come under the leadership of as yet undetermined neighbouring school. The Enfield Independent has also previously reported concerns over the expansion of George Spicer Primary School in Southbury Road, Enfield, and those who were echoed by those who attended the consultation, fearing the same could happen to their park. Mr. Bin said, "Of course we want to see school places increase in the area, but not at the expense of green space when there are other options. This part of the park is an enormous secluded area where all sorts of wildlife live. We don't want to come across as selfish, but green spaces are crucial in Enfield. This borough has some beautiful parks and we don't want that to be changed. At the moment, in Methodist Church Hall in the Bourne, Southgate, Enfield Borough Councillor's Assistant Director of Regeneration, Leisure and Libraries, Gary Barnes, assured attendees that the new school site would not jeopardise the park scenery. However, the rationale behind putting a school in this place has bemused Mr. Binns. He said, "Why are there proposals to build a school here when there's perfectly good space at Minchenden School, which has been mothballed? That space is designed for a school, and I don't understand why it has been considered yet. Of course, we are still in the very early stages of discussion, and it is important to stress that the association are not against new schools, but we want the council to be building in suitable places which do not affect green land, as in areas such as which need it most." Enfield's Council Cabinet Member for Children and Young People, Councillor Aoife Orhan, said, "As part of our plan to provide enough primary school places in the areas they are needed most, we have identified a number of potential sites, of which the site adjacent to Groveland's Park is one. We are only at concept stage at this time, and there is a considerable amount of work required with all stakeholders, including English Heritage, before the Council can even consider developing formal ideas. However, the Council is committed to gathering the views of local people on the proposals. This area is particularly deficient in primary school places, and it is important to hear the views of all residents, those interested in protecting green spaces, as well as those interested in being able to find local primary school places. Whether or not we proceed with the scheme, the Council is keen for people to come forward and let us know what they think of it. Any scheme we do decide to take forward will seek to minimise the impact on people living nearby, while aiming to provide first-rate school facilities for our children in the areas they are most needed."
Inspiring a Generation has continued to reap its rewards as 5 British Olympians motivated 50 homeless people at an athletics day. The sportsmen and women put their charges through their paces in 100 metres, 400 metres, long jump, high jump and relay at the Lee Valley Athletics Centre in Meridian Way, Edmonton, last Thursday. Non-profit organisation Social Purpose and Time, SPAT, which uses fitness to help disadvantaged people, hosted its first programme of training sessions and competitions with the help of Olympian sprinters Conrad Williams, Nigel Levine and Margaret Adeoye, decathlete Ashley Bryant and high jumper Martin Bernard. Mr. Williams said, while young people can look up to negative figures, they prefer positive role models and they'd rather make positive decisions. For a lot of young people, it's difficult growing up in London. I want to make sure they can see the positives. Sport is a great outlet, and by getting involved, kids can learn skills that help them in all walks of life. I've always worked with young people and always will. Working with SPAT means we've been able to offer this opportunity to take part in athletics for a lot of youths who've probably never had the chance before. Claude Umuhiri, 24 of Enfield, is now a SPAT member after attending the event and thoroughly enjoyed his day at Lee Valley. He said, "Today was awesome. Meeting Team GB athletes that I've seen on TV and aspired to be like. Standing next to them made me realise they're just as human as I am and that even someone like me could go on to achieve some great things."
A man has handed himself in to police after an alleged hit-and-run incident that left a motorcyclist in hospital. The 19-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of 2 driving offences after his car collided with a motorcyclist outside George Spicer Primary School in Southbury Road, Enfield, on Thursday. The road was closed and there was gridlock in Enfield town as paramedics treated the 37-year-old for chest injuries before he was airlifted to Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel, East London. After turning himself in on Friday, the driver was charged with failing to stop at the scene of an accident and driving without insurance. He has been bailed and is due to appear in North London Police Station on November the 27th. The motorcyclist is currently in a critical but stable condition.
We have now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over and start side 2.